Welcome to NC SPIN Perspectives, thoughts from opinion leaders in North Carolina. Glad to welcome again Joe Stewart, President and CEO of the North Carolina Free Enterprise Foundation. Okay, it's November 5th. The elections are over with. Whew. Everybody's relieved. Now the jockeying for House Speakership gets really serious. Talk to us about that. Tell us what you think is going to be taking place and who are the people that you think stand a pretty good chance here.
Well, I think it's safe to say that just about everybody in the majority caucus thinks of themselves as a candidate for speaker. There are a few folks in the Republican House caucus that have emerged. Leo Daughtry has clearly expressed an interest. Tim Moffitt, Mike Hager, any number of other Edgar Starnes, other legislators that have talked about it. Tim Moore, the current rules chairman, has certainly talked about it. I think there will be a lot of interest in what the results are on Election Day. And in large part, you want the leader of the House, the Speaker, to be someone who comes from a relatively safe district. So the outcome of all of these individual prospects for Speaker in their own district will be a factor for the caucus. They'll want to see that person X, candidate X for the speakership, can definitively and reliably win election in their own district, because you don't want the person who's in the Speaker's role, who can raise a considerable amount of campaign finance, to have to spend a lot of it there.
Well, and to some extent, there is some concern about that with Senate President Pro Tem Phil Berger, because polls are showing that perhaps this is not going to be a walkover election for him.
Well, I don't know what the internal polling in that campaign might be. There are a couple of dynamics. His son was a candidate for Congress, Rockingham County, their home county. His son didn't win in the primary runoff, so there may be some part of that. I think Senator Berger has a very compelling story to tell about what he's been able to accomplish in the leadership, but elections are really about local perspectives, and so he'll have to make a case why he's good for the people of his district. He certainly has a tremendous resource set to be able to do that. He will bring that to bear to win re-election, but the attitude of the electorate is very unusual at this point, and not just in Senator Berger's district, all across the country, really. Just an odd feel to this election in terms of the voters' perception of incumbents of both parties and what that means to...
Serious lack of trust. People are tired of politics. They don't believe that it's working.
Right.
It really is, since I've been following it, a very strange... we've had instances before where people didn't like particular candidates or even particular parties at some point in time. It really is very deep and serious right now.
Well, there's a lot of cynicism in some of the national polling that we've looked at. Perceptions of folks that identify themselves as either ideologically conservative or ideologically liberal, the percentage of the American electorate that identifies themselves as such, sort of the extremes of the political spectrum, are as great as they've ever been. But the percentage of people who feel like people of the other party are wrong all the time is also as great as it's ever been. So we're feeling stronger about what we believe in and stronger that the other side's always wrong. It's not a good formula.
All right, so again, it's November 5th, day after the election. You're starting to look at what's going to happen come January. A new legislature is going to be coming to town. We know that there's some big issues on the table that haven't been concluded: Medicaid reform, tax reform. What do you think is going to happen in this next General Assembly?
Well, there's always two possible outcomes to every election. One is that we learn a lot about what the attitude of voters are, and the other is that we learn nothing. And so it may be that this is an election where there's not a dramatic change. As much as we've talked about all these dynamics, people may go along with the status quo. They may just support candidates that they've historically supported for historic reasons. Now, that having been said, the dynamic of North Carolina's fast-growing population, the fact that a significant portion of the voters are not from here. In the 2012 exit polls, 20% of those voters lived in the state less than 10 years, a very limited understanding of North Carolina's political history. So I think it's likely that in some ways, every election, at least in the near term, will be writing new history for North Carolina. People will be deciding who our leaders are, who have no sense of the connection to a past North Carolina. They've only known a modern North Carolina, a more urban, a more dynamic state. So I think it's likely that what we learn from this election is that voters are really interested in results. And they came here because they feel like North Carolina is a great place to live and raise a family, but they want to continue to see that, and they believe that the only way that can be accomplished is by things being done by the General Assembly, by our leaders in state government. So whether or not the governor and the legislature is getting along, or whether or not the partisan balance of power is this or that, is not going to be as important to those voters as what did you get done? What did you accomplish?
Having a track record.
And increasingly for younger voters, it's that sense of the candidate themselves able to talk about what they were able to accomplish, what they plan to get done, how that's important to that voter. That will be a far greater importance politically than whether you're a Democrat or Republican to those younger voters.
Thank you for watching NC SPIN Perspectives. More perspective pieces all during the week on ncspin.com.